Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's December the 20th of 2023. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
It's Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, December time, so.
Yeah. Every single one of those all at once, all the time, until they end.
Yes, as far as I know. I mean, like, I don't ever look at a calendar, so.
I mean, I don't observe several of them, so I may not know all the rules. But the good times, they never end. That's what I've heard.
So I've heard the same thing. You probably hear a lot more than me right now, though, considering the, your rapid powers, your
Yeah.
years.
I was gonna say we do have to acknowledge the fact I am currently dressed as Mirko from My Hero Academia. Boom. I don't even remember how it started, but the conversation just went. I was like, look, I'll wear whatever anyone wants, but I'm not going to pay for it. So if someone wants to send it to me, whatever, I'll be happy to. And I'll try to make something funny out of it. So a listener of our show, who I won't name just in case they don't want me to. I should have checked on that beforehand. That's a bad thing on my end. So just to be safe. But they sent the costume. And I was like, cool. They included the wig. I got the wig. The wig was the most infuriating fucking thing on the planet, though. My head is gigantic, apparently. So I had it on for a while, and then it popped off. And then after that, I was like, I don't think it's getting back on. I think that was a one-and-done shot. If we'd record the podcast in 25 minutes, it would have been there. Also, apparently having that much hair is really, really frustrating. I didn't know that. But the other thing is I was going to have a whole gimmick to this. Like, I was going to play into the character of Mirko. And the only real character trait I know about her is she's like a blood knight, but then also she's lost like almost all of her limbs. So throughout the show, I was just going to be like, I broke my arm, and then throw like a fake limb, like an arm across the room. And then like it would get more and more exaggerated. Like eventually be like, I stubbed my toe, and then just rip off a leg and toss it. But those things actually, it turns out, are rather pricey.
Yeah,
mannequin pieces. It's wild. So just Mirko today. But I may make a couple rabbit puns. I don't know. Don't judge me.
Yeah, chapter 250 Mirko, basically. So
I'm the number 5 hero.
I believe that in the big hero ranking ceremony, she became the number 5 hero. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Number 5. I'm gonna just put on my glove of power.
You also seeing you in your current getup makes me realize, like, how would rabbit people wear headphones? Like, it was...
I'll be honest. These might come off at some point, not intentionally. This is a precarious setup, but
yeah,
life is for the living.
I'm not sure exactly how that applies to what you were talking about, but you're not wrong about that.
Thank you.
Will not challenge you.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
I appreciate you being the big man here and admitting you're wrong.
Oh, I didn't realize I was admitting to that.
Yeah, you admit faults.
I've already ceded that ground, and I can't take it back. It's impossible for me to do so.
Yeah.
So I guess
it'll make the court case a lot easier for me to win.
Oh,
that you've already admitted.
It's very concerning all of a sudden. Let's move on before I indict myself any further.
Suddenly, there's someone serving you papers. I
like you were counting on this happening. That's also very concerning.
I like that Kalinowski is like, well, since Ed shot Hawks and Endeavor are basically done, you're number 2 now. I think Mirko's also probably done. After the legs, I think she might be done for hearing a bit.
She'll walk it off.
Okay. Crawl it off? I don't know.
Hop it off. She's fine.
She'll vibrate it off. I actually can't remember what limb she has left. Is it a leg?
I think she has one leg left.
Okay.
I might even be wrong about that. She might just have all artificial limbs right at this point.
Which can be very cool. But I would like to hope at some point she goes on a vacation.
Just takes a little break.
You're like, girl, you've done a lot.
So we've got an odd lineup this week because we do have some of our irregular series, but also we are without My Hero Academia.
Yep.
We are without One Piece.
Yep.
We are without Eden Zero.
Ooh, you have no idea how excited I was.
Oh,
I was in this costume, making making something to eat before I had to do this, and I was like, "Fuck! I didn't read Eden Zero yet." Pulled up my phone again. I had to take off the gloves. I'm like, God damn it, this is gonna be annoying. Click the chapter. It's like, it's at the end. Oh, I read this chapter already. Oh, we're done. There's no chapter to have to recap this week. It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, pretty much. Or it's on break. I don't know.
I'm so excited. I think it's. I don't care. Any reason, assuming Hero isn't hurt or anything like that, I'm very grateful for.
The only other thing we have to note before we get into the swing of things is that we announced we were going to give people a chance to remove a manga from the recap, and the votes came in.
Yeah.
And very overwhelmingly, the people have spoken.
Yeah, so I will preface this by saying this was not something I announced publicly. This was only available in our Discord. I think I only tweeted. I only messaged it like once. This wasn't like a constant reminder, like, go check this out. But I basically was like, hey, between these 5 series, which one you want us to drop? Kagurabachi, Eden Zero, Nue Sexorcist, 2 on Ice, the Elusive Samurai. Because those are the 5 that people have kind of discussed that, like, sometimes can be frustrating for us to try to find something to talk about or whatever, or don't have a lot of interest in. And there's part of me that's like, oh, maybe I should have like posted it on Blue Sky and like gotten the wider pub. I think the vote would have been the same.
I think so.
I don't, seeing how much, again, overwhelmingly, because you can only pick one option. This wasn't like you could pick multiple. Overwhelmingly, people were like, if I can only get one, get rid of Kagurabachi.
Yeah. I think it was like more than double the next one afterward. Yes. So yeah,
over 50% of the poll voted for Kagurabachi.
So we're not talking about it anymore.
Yes.
I was gone. All set to. No, I wasn't all set. I read the chapter this week with the intention of us talking about on the recap, and then as I was getting ready to record, I was like, "What the hell happened in Kagurabachi again?" And I checked it out. I was like, So no, we're not going to talk about it. Sorry, Reddit's favorite manga. We're not going to talk about it anymore. So if it gets good again, I'm sure we'll hear about it. But I don't know.
It's not looking super great for the series in the long term right now, so it might not have lasted all that much longer. But people were like, "You guys are rushing towards the end of the recap. Maybe there are too many series. We should get rid of one. Why don't we get rid of the one nobody seems to enjoy right now?"
Yeah. So with that said, we've got a few series out. We've got a few irregular stuff in. Let's get into it. Quinn, you're starting us off because it's Undead Unluck.
Yeah, I'm going to start us off and then you do the rest of the episode.
Basically.
Because there's no Eden Zero and no One Piece, which are the 2 other series I talk through. So I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes here and then feel good and just coast the rest of the episode. Nick, let's talk about Undead Unluck number 188, the same undying person. So we open in a flashback as Juez is talking to Apocalypse. Victor is still, he's nearby, but he's snoozing loudly. We can see the big snore sound effects coming from him.
Yep.
And Juez is like affectionately flipping through Apocalypse as he is a book. But she's just like, hey, can I ask you a question? She's like, stop doing this. Fine. As long as it's like related to the system, I don't care. And she says, so if I were to fail a loop and then be reborn in the next world, would my name or looks change? Because, like, no matter how many times we do the loop, like Gina and Victor, or Gina and Void and all that, they all look the same. But Victor and I are from a time before there were rules for sex and gender. So we don't have parents. What would exactly happen there? And Apocalypse is like, all right. So you would be given the right to exist in the child, like you'd basically be the child of somebody, like a couple who could not have children. And because you would be genetically their child, you would carry their DNA. So you would look different. You would be raised, so you'd probably be different. You would functionally be different people. And she's like, that's a problem. Like, if Victor saw that happened, he wouldn't let me go into the battle anymore. And even if someone else were to loop instead. So, what's going to happen? He's like, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to fall in love with the guy who can never die. So he just persists throughout these loops and everything like that. And she's like, well, you know what? I think I have 100 loops, so I bet I'll find them one day. And we move out of the flashback into current day, where Fuko is entering into the round table room, and she's so excited. She's like, finally, the one clue.
Just briefly, importantly, that flashback was fall from Apocalypse's perspective. Yes. Like, he establishes, like, well, what the hell was I just dreaming about? So this is on his mind right now.
Yeah. So Fuko's like, finally, we have the clue that we needed to get to Juez. These locations that only Andy could sense because he has, like, a mastery of his soul ability. London, United Kingdom, Apocalypse, run a check, on people living in the United Kingdom. I'm sure it's a small amount. But as she's, doing all that, she's smiling and she's looking up because she's saying, wow, that aside, things have gotten so huge, haven't they? And we see the round table as it is now has expanded to 13 people. So we have like a regular 10-person round table, and then as we saw in those like visions or dreams that Fuko had, the round table is extended upwards. Basically, everyone they've recruited so far is considered a member of the round table, with the exception of Ishin, Latla, Ichigo, and Nico, who also still does not have his ability yet.
And Mui. Mui's she's just crammed into Shen's corner there.
Yeah, she's. I mean, they're a tag team. I like that On Burn got to be in there before anyone else. They're like, we just got you, whatever. It's very, very cool. We get to see everybody and all their abilities and everything like that. And as with Fuko unlocked, very cool. And Apocalypse says it's quest time, so we reveal 4 new quests. Capture of UMA Burn, they get an artifact, the silent voice. Capture of UMA Summer, you get it, they get the location of the artifact, Harlequin. Neutralization of UMA Beast and the neutralization of UMA Language, both of them provide 2 additional roundtable seats. And Fuko immediately is like, those are the number 9 and the number 8 master rules, superior rules. So they're like, oh, well, we're not going to do that quest then, because we can't survive against them. And Apocalypse is like, are you sure? Because if you do, I will add UMA Revolution. And Fuko has to explain that, like, that's the one where we lose the game. Once that happens, we will start on a collision course towards the sun, at which point the fight starts, and we'll be in the final battle at that point.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. So a pass at this point, like Apocalypse is like, you must understand. If a pass at this point means game over, but you have no chance if you do accept, you're done for. You either accept the quest and die or run and die, blah, blah, blah. And Fuko says, I accept. I'm sorry, Apocalypse. And Apocalypse, Nico's like, sorry about what? And she says, I've been at a loss about what to do, and I've decided I'm going to go pick her up. The first seed of the previous loop, Unjustice, Miss Juez. And Apocalypse is like, what? Why? Why do you care? What worth does she have to you? She doesn't even have Unjustice. She's just an ordinary brat. And Fuko says, you know, I figured out that like the 10 superior rules are like they'll fuck you up quests. Like they're pretty much almost extinction level events. And yet, Miss Jewez has been able to hold out for 100 loops because of how powerful Unjustice is as an ability. So it can actually stand up to these rules, can it? And Apocalypse is like stunned. She's like, yeah, I can tell that you're right. And is it because of this strategy that you're nervous? Like I got it in one, or is it because deep down you don't want Miss Jewez to fight? Very sweet. Turns out this book has feelings, Nick.
Yeah, can you believe it? This little fucking troll book.
Yeah. And the book's like, no, fuck you. How dare you? I'm the best. Everyone sucks but me. You're speaking nonsense, everything like that. And she's just like, you know, I was convinced that you felt the same way as Mr. Victor. And Mr. Victor just wanted Miss Jewez to laugh and smile. And that's why he wanted her to give up the battle and just live a normal life. But that's not why it's not what she wants. He's like, how do you know that? She's like, because I fell in love with the same undying person. And we even have like little Gina in the background. They look very happy. We jump back into the flashback from earlier with Jewez and Apocalypse, where she says, yeah, I can loop forward 100 times, so I'm definitely sure I'll be able to find that one true friend who can understand these feelings of love. And Apocalypse is just like, fat chance. There's only one undead lady. I don't know what you're going to do. And she's like, yeah, I bet it'll work itself out, basically.
Well, I mean, considering that there's 2 different undeads, so...
Yeah. Cut over to the United Kingdom, and they're like, okay, so, like, the quests are on the table, but our number one priority right now is to get Miss Jewez. Like, even if it takes us all the way up to, like, the quest deadline, because we just need her. She's that vital. So... let's go get her, and then we can take out these superior rules. Do we have any leads? And she's like, so I know a bit about Miss Jewez as the leader of her fan club, so I'm going to give you some detail. And she starts going. She's like, she's a cool, beautiful woman whose long hair is never caught off guard. Her smile is the kindest you've ever seen, and she has a habit of closing her mouth with a closed fist. And she excels at swordplay, on par with Miss Yusai, and all these sorts of things. And they're like, hey, is that her on TV? And they just point over to a TV where there's a woman who just won a fencing championship. Julia Eustitia?
Julia Eustitia.
Julia Eustitia. Yeah, I guess that's the pun. She's Justice. And they're like, oh, wow, this is your first, not only your first tournament win, but the first one you've ever entered. And she's like, oh, yeah, it just really clicked with me. And they allowed you to win the tournament? That's crazy. And Fugo's just like, oh, that's her. And they're like, you said she was, like, cool, though, because she has, like, very short hair now, as we saw in the previous loop and everything like that. And she's like, no, it's her. And I'm like, but her hair's not long. She's like, oh, it's her. Okay, and it's just like, it's her. I'm trying to tell you, okay?
What do you mean she's not cool? Look at her.
I think short hair cuties.
She does look much cuter than she did in the previous loop.
Well, I think she's also supposed to be a lot younger as well.
I think that I mean, she does definitely have much more of a like small cutie kind of design than, you know, tall regal badass kind of vibe. They say that she's only been sword fighting for a week too, so she's very strong.
Yeah, she's very, very powerful. Looks like that's where we're moving. I'll be curious to see if we're also then going to close in on the other 4 members or what they decide to do with that. But that's where we're at. I think it's a fun time.
It seems like it's going to be priority 1 to recruit Jewez, but definitely, I mean, the other 4 have to be right around the corner because we got that big splash page last time, cutting between all 5 of them. This isn't the big thing that really interested me this week was just the fleshing out of Apocalypse's character, demonstrating that he's grown some form of attachment to at least one person through all of the many loops that they've spent together, which makes sense. I mean, like, how long can you stay hostile towards someone that you're hanging out with for thousands of years? So we'll see if anything comes of that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here.
Blue Box.
Blue Box.
Chapter number 130. I'm borrowing one. Hey, it's the basketball tournament, and Chinatsu and company are progressing through it. They win their first match, and everyone's happy afterwards. Chinatsu is kind of still keeping herself restrained. She's exchanging texts with Taiki. She says, "Hey, we won our first game." He gives her congratulations back, and she tells everyone like, "Hey, come on, we should get back to school and practice. Keep sharp and everything." But they hear some ruckus because there's another match going on at the same time. And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's amazing. We gotta watch it. There's this one player who's crazy talented." And they go over and they watch. And of course, it's Yumeka leading Saisho High and kicking ass. Which, by the way, high school women's basketball, this is a high-scoring game.
What was the...
89 to 71.
That's pretty impressive. Usually high school games aren't jumping into the 80s.
Not nearly. But that's a very comfortable margin of victory as well. Up more than a quarter of your opponent's total score at that point. And they're like, "Man, she's great." It's
nearly
like
20 points, yeah.
Yeah. And they also, reiterate something that was established last time when going over the tournament ladder, which is these were the second best team in the prefecture last year that they just creamed like this. And Chinatsu just thinks to herself while she's watching, like, Yumeka's back. The Yumeka that I always admired is back. And of course, they're rivals now. She heads out of the arena, and we cut over instead to Taiki. And hey, tournament prep's coming in for him too. Of course, they're getting set for the prefectural singles qualifiers. And so he immediately looks over the list and he realizes, okay, Yusa's in a different block from me. So I'm not going to see him early on. But then he realizes that something else is happening. He is set to face Haru in the semifinals. And of course, there's only 2 slots for nationals, so the winner of the semifinals is who gets to go to nationals. So whoever wins gets to go. Whoever loses their match doesn't get to go to nationals. Uh-oh. But Haru just kind of, laughs it off a little bit and says, somehow I had a feeling that this was going to happen. And he smirks at Taiki and says, "Talk about unlucky." And Taiki realizes, I've got to beat him. I can't go to nationals if I don't beat him. Shit. Back over to Chinatsu. It's raining outside at the end of their practice. Chinatsu says she's going to stay behind, get a little bit more in. But she's just kind of sitting on the floor, and she thinks about Taiki a little bit. So she gets a call from her dad, who asks her how things are going. And he says, I heard that the qualifiers for nationals just started. Good luck. After all, that's why you stayed in Japan. You're a smart kid, Chinatsu. You took into consideration the responsibility of living away from your parents, the feelings of those who helped you work for your goals, and you're still there with the determination to compete. Make sure you do a good job. Which is a very,
cold
parent thing to do.
Yeah, very, cold and clinical of, you've done a good job being a child. Responsibilities have been put upon you. You have done them. Excellent. Continue existing.
Continue to do that good job. Otherwise, you will have wasted everything.
Yeah. We are not massively disappointed in you yet. Carry on.
That could change.
Yes.
But we could also end up being very proud. No pressure. No pressure. She doesn't look too happy to have gotten this call.
Yeah, she does not seem to have any particularly fond relationship with her parent.
Yeah. So she gets up, she heads out onto the court, but she heads over to the badminton club area. She's still the only one in the gym, but she walks over to a basket and she just grabs a shuttlecock out of it, and then she kind of pauses and then turns and rushes off, and she's like, "I'm gonna borrow this." Very cute. She wants a little good luck charm for what she's going through. Again, over to Taiki, and Kyo says to him, like, "Hey, so girls' basketball team's got a game today, right?" And Taiki says, "Yep, third match." Kyo looks at Taiki, who's doing sit-ups. He says, "Do you want to go cheer them on? It's going up against Yumika. It's a big game." And Taiki says, "I mean, yeah, I want to go, but I gotta go prepare to face Haruyu in the tournament. I gotta practice. I gotta get ready." And Kyo stares at him for a second, and then he says, "You know, if I remember correctly, the reason you were inspired to go to nationals was Chinatsu-senpai. And yeah, it's important for you to focus on polishing your skills, but it's also important for you to be in the right mindset for your tournament. So I think you're allowed to go."
Yeah. Hey, kid. Turns out every second of your life does not need to be devoted to getting better at sports. You're allowed to enjoy yourself and go be there for an important moment for your fucking girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. And there is a moment where Taiki pauses and is looking up at him. There's a little panel where Taiki's like, "Can you guarantee that?" No. So Taiki does have to make the decision himself. Like, he's not being told, "Go do it." He's saying, like,
you have to make this call for yourself, kid.
But he gets up and he's like, "You're a good guy, Kyo," and he rushes off. And Kyo says, "Yep, sure am." I also like that Ayame has heard at least part of this conversation, but, she doesn't realize all of what's going on because she doesn't know that Chinatsu and Taiki are dating. So, yep. And this is the note that we leave off on, is that Aimee and Saisho, Chinatsu, and Yumika's teams are getting set to square off. And Chinatsu's got the little shuttlecock that she stole under her clothes. So she's got her little good luck charm with her. So, yeah, sports, but not too much sports. It's important to have a strong relationship.
Yeah, this is a romance sports manga. Thank you very much. This is cool. I feel bad because I clearly read like half this chapter and then had to stop for some reason and then forgot to finish it because I was like, I don't remember any of this. But this is very, very cute. I do like her taking a little shuttlecock as like a good luck charm for herself. I like her even being like, "I'm borrowing one." Like, you could just fucking take it. I think they're like a nickel. But she's a very good egg, and I feel bad that she doesn't have an affectionate parent. And I hope she's excited when she sees Taiki. I think this is going to end poorly for her. Again, I've said I think that she is going to fail in her trip to nationals. And it would be very fitting if she lost to Yumika's team. Yeah. I shouldn't say fitting, but it would be very poetically written, I guess.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
Yep, we'll see how it goes. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. It's chapter 5, Target. Okay, so bunch of things happened last chapter. To recap that very briefly, the fucking chakra trees are people now. Not only are they people, they're people based on the people who have been turned into chakra trees, as in Bug, Sasuke, and a woman. So we got confirmation that Sasuke was, encompassed in a chakra tree at the end of the last chapter, and we get a flashback that really, really quickly goes through some of the training that Boruto and Sasuke did together. Really quickly.
They were like, "Hey, what was training with Sasuke like?" Well, it was intense. I had to cut things.
I had to cut things with a sword.
And what else? And he's like, I've mastered all of his techniques, but I still sometimes accidentally call him Old Man Sasuke instead of Master. Correct myself. You're like, well, that's kind of a weird thing, but all right, whatever. Weird. What else happened? Then we got attacked, and he got turned into a tree.
Also, to get in touch with my Uchiha training, I had my hair going over my eyes to look more like Sasuke.
This is the craziest part. is this intentional that he also gave himself like a shitty emo haircut? Because
It's
the
really
moment
weird.
Sasuke gets turned into a tree, he like
No, let's look it back.
he doesn't slick it back. The fucking wind blows and blows it back, and I guess it just stays that. Like, what does this mean? Like, okay. Oh god. Kishimoto clearly thought two things of this were very, very cool. One, he thought it was very, very cool if Boruto had Sasuke's hair and then it blows back into the original Boruto hairstyle. That's very dumb. Two, he thought it'd be very, very cool if Boruto calls him Old Man Sasuke and then corrects himself to Master, because that's like the emotional closure, is Sasuke's been turned
But
to
then
a
he
tree.
keeps on doing it.
Yeah, he like grabs the sword. He's like, "I'll save you, Old Man Master." And I'm like, again, how have you not gotten that? That's like what you call him. Like, this can't have been a new thing. I imagine it takes some time to learn some of these techniques. Whatever. It's been 2 years.
Moments where like they're talking together and he's referring to him as Master, so it's like he just forgets when Sasuke's not there. As soon as he's not there, he's like, "Oh right, no wait, that's my master.
Oh right,
my master, old man.
My master."
Yeah. He does it in front of the man's own daughter. Like,
the hair is the stupidest thing, though.
It's
This truly, I don't know if it makes the year-end list. There's so many wild moments, but it is baffling to me, the idea that like while he trades, his hair gets emo, but then the wind blows afterwards, and it's like boom, fucking right back to perfectly coiffed Boruto hair.
it's also like, thank God that this montage is so quick to go through their actual training, because Sasuke doesn't have any actual substantial advice to give Boruto on what we see. He just says, "You have already learned everything I have to teach you. You just need to practice." Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
you're a genius who fucking rules. You've mastered everything. And it's like, all right, well, like, what should I do next? He's like, well, I have no idea.
What practice? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
He'll figure it out. You're like a smart.
Hey,
thing.
watch me cut off Code's eye off screen. Ah! Happens off panel. Code loses an eye off panel.
Again, such a weird, like, you flip the page and they're like, now we're in the fight. And I'm like, oh, Code was here? He did run it? Like, you would not have really gleaned that from the conversation I feel like they had just had. Like, what, 2 chapters ago or whatever?
Right.
But yeah, Code attacked them because he's like, Sasuke, you... So he manages to send a whole bunch of the claw grimes, and then again, we don't really see much. A fight happened, and then Sasuke got turned into a tree, and you're like, how emotional.
Yep. So that's how Boruto ended up with Sasuke's sword, is that Sasuke got turned into a tree, and he took it, and he's like, I will avenge you, master, blah, blah, blah. We cut over to Konoha. Konohamaru is called over by some ninja, and they're like, over here, Moegi's been turned into a chakra tree.
I sat here and I was like,
Moegi!
Again, I had gloves on. I couldn't like go to Narutopedia to be like, who the fuck is Moegi?
So they know that she's not dead, of course, because she's been turned into a tree.
Is this a character? Is this someone who's shown up before, Nick?
Yes. Moegi has shown up as Konohamaru's friend. That's right. Konohamaru has sidekick characters, Quinn.
Well, he deserves them. He's been through a lot.
So we learn from this that the jester-looking lady chakra tree person is from Moegi. That's her source ninja person. This is like if you introduced an evil Johnny Quick or something like that. Like, how dare you introduce an evil nega version of Johnny Quick? You're lucky I even know who Johnny Quick is. Just the sidekick of a third string hero or something like that. I don't even know. But it's, I'm lucky that I knew who this was before we even turned the page. The evil person is based off them. So we get a conversation between the chakra tree people who essentially say, like, I can sense the emotions of people around my chakra tree right now for some reason. By the way, evil Moegi's name is Matsuri. That is a name that has already been used in Naruto before. So
no, you'll remember
this one's going to be much more important than the other one, admittedly. Literally, I think that the only thing that she's a girl that likes Gaara. I think that's the only thing that is relevant about her. She's a girl in the sand ninja land that likes Gaara. That's it.
Someone's saying she was part of the kid trio with Konohamaru, and I'm like, where do you remember this? Like, how? I guess if you have
a couple of appearances that were probably expanded in the filler of the anime. Yeah. She would show up sometimes when Konohamaru showed up, when he was like, I'm going to be a ninja, and also these kids like you too, Naruto, and that's basically it. So, lead tree guy says to everyone, like, we may be one unit, biologically speaking, but each of us have different awarenesses, and the emotions you, Matsuri, are fearing, those are yours alone. We all have a single existence known as the Divine Tree, but we are experiencing an unprecedented state in which we each possess independent consciousness. So he establishes, like, we're still trying to do the same thing, as in devour the world, and by devouring Otsutsuki, Boruto, and Kawaki, but each of us is developing in unexpected ways because we are each conscious now. And because of that, they have, like, different individual desires as well. But they're also talking about this in a way that, like, they're still trying to figure it out. So it's kind of actually fairly straightforward in explaining that. So he says, look, I feel like I instinctively want to specifically devour Uzumaki Naruto. Ada is watching all this with her Senrigan, her surveillance camera ability. And she's, just sitting, like, at a diner somewhere with a drink in her hand. She's like, why the hell does he want to eat Naruto? And they're talking it over, and he says, yeah, I don't know. There's just some sort of instinctive drive that I have. And I think that if we follow those instincts, that will allow us to evolve further. So Matsuri says that she wants to devour Konohamaru. Okay. Jura, who is Jura is the leader guy, and the Sasuke one says, what the hell are we? And Jura's like, it doesn't matter. Okay. So it's like, wait on, I'm not ready to explain that part yet. But he says to the Sasuke person, you, Hidari, should have your own targets. And so Ada's still watching stuff. The bug one gets up and walks over to Ada's position as she's watching over stuff. And he says, you're watching, ain't ya, Ada? My target is you. And over on her side of things, Ada, like, drops her drink in shock. And in theory, it's a cool thing that could have happened, as in, like, oh, the guy that I'm remotely watching specifically came over to me and talked to me as if I were actually there and said he was going to kill me, and that freaked me out. The way that the panels are laid out mutes the hell out of the impact of this moment. Like, as soon as he turns, like, oh, he knows that she's there and is going, and oh, he's walking over to her, so he's going to threaten her. Okay. If
Ikemoto was more, I really don't want to say more talented as an artist. That feels so, like, brutal. But if there was more, like, care paid to the paneling, you absolutely could turn this into a terrifying moment. Because, like, in a vacuum, I could see how this code Claw Grime or Bug Claw Grime is terrifying. I don't remember if they gave him a name. I don't know if I'm going to remember it. It's the Grime Bug. Bug Grime.
Grime Bug.
Grime Bug. That's a cool band name. So, like, I could see how that design would be terrifying, especially if it turned towards you and you placed a lot of shadow and emphasis on how terrifying it is, where they're like, watching, are ya? I've decided my target is you. And you're like, you play into, like, this terror of it, and, like, then she
zoom in on his face. Like,
it just feels like there's nothing there. It's just a moment that you're like, this could have been very cool, but
And the Sasuke Clawgrime Chakra Tree guy, Hidari, says that he is going to be targeting Sarada. So it's kind of weird because it's like, okay, so we've got a couple people here that seem to be going after specifically people that their originals had a close emotional attachment to. And then it's just like, well, who should Bug go after? I don't know, Ada.
I get that. He's like, you're my enemy. It would make more sense if he was like, I'm going to go after Code.
Yeah.
But like, I can get it. And also, you want somebody to be going after Ada. Otherwise,
Yes.
she's this omnipotent being who's just going to watch everything and tell everyone what's happening.
Right. Yeah. If you went to all this trouble of making her seem important to the story, have her be involved in things. Yes. Yeah. Meanwhile, Amado and Sumire are hanging out in a room together. And so Sumire is like kind of like casting some sidelong looks at him, and Amado's eventually like, "What is it?" And she says, "Well, Boruto's back, yeah, but Konoha's still trying to kill him. Well, yeah, he killed the village leader." But she thinks to something that Amado had said back when he was explaining why he was going to work with Konoha, which is that his daughter's data has been added to Kawaki's karma, which is the only way that he has to revive her legitimately, like with her soul intact. Remember that was a thing, because he like revived her with he tried to revive her and it didn't work. So Sumire says, wouldn't it be a problem for you if Boruto's killed because you wanted him back for your daughter, because Kawaki and Boruto switch places for everyone. And Amado says, I sprung Boruto out of Kara's clutches with Kashin Koji's help to take Ishiki down. After Ishiki died, I embedded my daughter's DNA. He just repeats all the stuff that Sumire remembered. So he repeats all that stuff. And he says, Kawaki, for whatever reason, his body is a scientific ninja tool, but no one knows who modified him or when, despite him being the Hokage's son. But it's clear to me that I gave him those modifications. And Sumire, of course, is taken aback by this. She's like, "What? How do you know that?" And he says, I know because I recognize my own handiwork. No one else could have done it. I recognize, the telltale signs that I made those modifications. And it's the same with his karma. I can tell it's not one that I implanted in him. For some reason, that data is on Kawaki's palm instead. These all contradict my memory, but in light of this evidence, I have to conclude that my memory has been altered. And he says all this very casually and very deadpan. So he says, like, look, Boruto doesn't possess the karma that I need to provide my daughter. Kawaki does. Okay. Also, he's under surveillance. Bunch of surveillance people, including Sai and Shikamaru, are listening in on this whole conversation. And Sai's like, what the hell do you think about what they just said, Shikamaru? And Shikamaru doesn't say anything. We cut to a different scene. We don't get to see how they feel about this. So Sumire and Sarada meet up to exchange notes. And they're like, wait, why is Amado aware that his memory has been rewritten? Because every other case that we have shown, physical evidence does not affect people's altered memories. They do not doubt their own memories, even when you show them a picture of the Uzumaki family with Boruto as a child with his family. They still don't get it. So why does Amado see through that? And they're like, oh, I guess certain people just can't. They don't know. Okay. So let's move on. It's not important. Move on. Anyway, so then they think like, okay, yeah, most people just can't doubt their own memory. But Sarada thinks about how her father did when she came to him and begged him for help. He still was able to see past it. And she's like, yeah, but my dad did. And then Boruto shows up. He's like, yeah, old man Sasuke, rather, Master Sasuke believed in me. Fuck off. Like, why are you doing this? So they turn around and, yeah, Boruto's there. And he's got his stupid cape on. And he's like, yeah, he risked his life to save mine. And Sarada teleports into hugging him. And big ol' hug. He like is surprised and kind of like starts to return it, and Sarai's like, "You're late, you stupid Boruto." And then he gives her a hug and is like, "Sorry, I'm home now." Okay, so
It's very fucking anime. You're late, stupid Boruto. Like, okay, it's fine.
again,
It's all solid 6 out of 10 moments. That's the height Boruto is reaching at this point.
this chapter there is a little bit of garbage in it in terms of like the Amato stuff and some of the other little bits here and there, including Boruto's stupid old man Sasuke, Master Sasuke. It's like, why are you doing that? But honestly, this is, I say objectively, it's not objectively, but from a detached perspective, this is the best chapter that Boruto has had in a long fucking time. Yet, it only rises to the level of, okay,
Yeah.
fine. This should be the floor for a series that is good. Just it establishes certain things that aren't that interesting, but are important.
At this point, I would consider a series good or a Boruto chapter good if it just had less talking in it. Like, I think there was a chapter that was mostly action. I was like, this might be the best Boruto chapter because there was less time for characters to talk and say stupid shit that I don't care about. And that's the same situation here. Like, some moments, I'm like, I kind of get this in a vacuum. Like, Kishimoto is not, like, completely devoid of the ability to tell stories. But, like, I, at this point, have come to realize how boring a lot of this stuff is. And I just, like, it when two characters in Boruto sit in a room, it ends up happening a lot with Amato. I just don't understand what I am supposed to, like, I don't know, my mind wanders at that point. I don't want to sit there and pay attention to these two characters talking anymore.
Fully understand that. Just Amato talking like a robot in that scene is like, let me explain. Just all right. It's Chainsaw Man time. It's chapter 151, The Return of Chainsaw Man. Last time things started to go bad because the apartment, Denji and Nayuta's apartment was getting burned down by Barum and company. Fumiko showed up with some help to stop him, but the Whip Devil attacked them and killed one of them and knocked Fumiko on her ass. And one of the other two devil people just grab her and take her hostage. And she's like, "What the hell? We got you guys." And the Whip Devil says, "The public safety is in such disarray right now because of all the chaos that they just let us escape. They couldn't keep an eye on them." So
Fumiko better have a cool ass devil at some point when they reveal. Like, she better have some, like, cool ass devil that she uses or something.
Yeah, she's kind of just getting her ass kicked right now.
Yeah.
Denji says, "You monsters!" But the Sword Devil says, "Don't misunderstand, Denji. Yes, we set your home on fire, but only because it's the key to saving the world." And Denji has a very understandable reaction, which is, "Wait, what?" And the Sword Devil says, "Every part of our rampage of terror is connected to stopping Nostradamus' prophecy." And Denji's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, unleash your anger. If you do, you'll save the world, dude." And the Whip Devil thinks this is hilarious because I guess she doesn't give a shit. She just wants to kill people, I think. Barum gets up. He's not dead. So Nayuta lashes out with her control ability. Chain goes out and spikes him through the head. And Barum, lurches backwards. And Nayuta says, "Bite your tongue off and die." But he gets to his feet and staggers towards her instead and grabs her by the neck. And yes, I know that Nayuta is the control devil and has done some bad things, even under Denji's care. She still is a kid. Yeah. So this is not great.
She's a child, and you just killed all of her dogs.
Yeah. And Barum says, like, "Yeah, looks like you can't take control of us. Is that because my body is still under Ms. Makima's rule, or because my heart belongs to her even now?" All right, calm down.
Chill out, bud.
And he says that if Makima were alive, she could have used Denji's power to defeat the Death Devil, and there would have been a peaceful world. But you, Chainsaw Man, you destroyed our promise of peace, and you've been lapping up the peace public safety had provided to you. These flames are your punishment. All right, asshole.
Yeah, chill out, bro.
Yeah, it's not cool. You killed some dogs. What did they ever do? Nayuta takes control of one of the public safety guys and gets him to pick up his gun and shoot Barham in the head.
Very cool.
Good job. And then she calls out for Denji. And Denji looks around for a bit. Everyone reacts for a second. And then he grips his chest where the ripcord is. And he looks over towards the flames. And he sees Pochita waving to him. And Pochita is waving goodbye to a carefree child Denji.
Aww.
And Denji tears at the ripcord, rips off his shirt as Nayuta rushes to him, and his chainsaw comes out of his head and he starts to transform. And Nayuta looks up and she says, "Why are you laughing?" And she's looking over at what looks like a burning cross, which, of course, it seems like it could just be, the cross beams of, the apartment building and stuff. But I don't know. There's one person that I know that's shaped like a cross that would laugh at this, and I don't like them.
Oh, man, that'd be so cool. He's like, I showed up! You all die!
Very weird note to end on right here.
Yes.
Because Nayuta seems to be reacting to something that no one else is. Everyone else is, of course, too busy looking at Denji turning into Chainsaw Man. Yeah.
I think it's more like, he's lost it at this point. He realizes he's giving up his carefree life at this point by becoming Chainsaw Man, and he just laughs because he's like, I don't know what else to do. And it's very, very sad. I don't know if that's supposed to be the Flame Devil that we're seeing, like the part that kind of cuts people out in this. I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like a sound effect reference or anything like that. It'll be interesting to see, but this is quite a heavy chapter.
Yeah. This definitely seems like a very tragic thing that has happened here.
Yeah.
Even though Denji, of course, has established that he wants to be Chainsaw Man, but this is also in a way sad because, yeah. All right.
I'll be right
Dr.
back.
Stone, 4D Science, Chapter 2D, Future Roadmap. So, last time we ended on the note of they were getting a message from the future, which, of course, everyone thought seems like was impossible, not because of the time travel stuff, but because the message arrived from Byakuya, Senku's father. And so Rusu's like, oh shit, well, if he did that, that means that we can make a time machine with neoscience and unravel every last mystery, right? Senku, reels in shock for a little bit, but they proceed onward, start laying out a big roadmap so that they can create their time machine, get a bunch of stuff set up for it, which includes making a giant-ass city in space. They're going to build the time machine, not on Earth, but on the moon. But of course, in order to get all the resources to the moon, it's going to be a problem because every time that you take stuff to the moon, the cargo can only amount to 10% of the payload. The rest of it has to be fuel to get there. So that they realize this is going to be a problem. Kaseki starts talking about something tells me this time I won't be around to see the fruits of our labor. Not that I won't work just as hard. Aww. It's okay, Kaseki. We have the key to immortality. You'll be fine. They start, kind of trying to think of ideas for what they could do in order to, get stuff to the moon more efficiently. And Kohaku, talks about how, hey, when we were traveling through space, we used slingshot effects in order to use the momentum given to us by, revolving around gravitational wells in order to propel us towards our goals. So maybe we could find a way to, zip straight up instead, and that would make the trip a whole lot faster. So Suika gets an idea, and she starts scribbling down some ideas, and Chrome and Kohaku come over and are like, oh, you got an idea, and Suika gets really embarrassed. She hides the plans and tries to crumple them up, but Chrome grabs them and unfolds them, and he starts to think of a big idea, so he and Suika start to work on it. And when they go off to do so, and they're like, "Oh, we've got an idea. This was Suika's idea, but we've got a demonstration here." And Kohaku is going to demonstrate for them, and she's cut off her ponytail, and she's also wearing a different dress. She's got the E equals MC squared that Senku usually wears, and it's like, all right, is this just like an image update for Kohaku? Well, no, because she just goes back to her regular appearance about 10 pages later. So I don't know why they did this in particular, but whatever. Anyway, the reason she cut off her hair is because she has turned her hair into a string to form a giant lasso thing. And they're like, yeah, so if we've got a weight on the end of the string, and then we've got a satellite, essentially, that would travel along the momentum of it. So if we were to have this massive tether go all the way out into space, then you could revolve it around the planet, the string would stay taut, and you could have free elevator rides for life. And so everyone's like, yeah, this is a great idea, isn't it? We call this idea, and of course, in typical Dr. Stone fashion, Chrome is giving this big explanation of this invention, and Senku's like, oh yeah, space elevator. And immediately Chrome and Suika are like, oh, we wasted our time on this idea. The pratfall as this happened throughout the series a whole bunch. But Senku reveals, well, actually, this invention never existed in the old world. It was only entirely theoretical. Because yes, it's a great idea in theory, but how the hell do you have a thread that stretches all the way into space without it just collapsing and snapping under its own weight? There's no material of that size that could withstand that amount of force. Yes, there is in this series, and the reason that they had this string is that because, like, oh, it's Kohaku's hair, which is very, very strong. And like, what? Wow, really? A cable made of hair? And Kohaku's like, yeah, my hair is really strong. And like, no, that's not it. That's not the reason it's strong. But it's just strong as his hair. But then Senku has a brain blast, and he remembers when they did go into space, a single hair got into all of the circuitry of their ship and gunked everything up when it was petrified. So they try petrifying the hair that they've made the string out of, and they realize, like, oh my god, it's really, really, really strong, and also it's conductor. It's like, wow, what a great material. Kaga's like, yep, my hair, it's great. No, it's not. It's not the reason. It's great. It's the petrification of the hair that is specifically doing it.
Did we talk about how cute she looks with the short hair?
She does look nice.
I like the short hair. Well, is it a redesign? Because I feel like by the end they're like, actually, her
she wears a different. It's a very brief redesign. I was just saying this, like, she like changes her dress. She's got like the E equals MC squared symbol on it now and everything. And it's like, all right, cool. And then like months go by, she just grows it back. It's like,
I was like,
all right.
Sigh.
So they start experimenting with that, and they're like, okay, well, we need to have hair that we could produce this with. And it's like, well, we need something that can produce a lot more of this. So they go out, they grab a bunch of spider webs and petrify that. They specifically are using Y-Man's ability to petrify a different material instead of humanity. And they also make a note of like, oh, we can't see the Flash anymore. And that's because it's invisible to anything that it's not targeting. So they, petrify some spider webs and stuff. They're trying to do that. But then they realize, like, oh man, even when they're getting all these spider webs, this isn't nearly enough for mass production. What are we going to do? And I immediately was like, get some fucking silkworms if you're going to do this. But fortunately, they don't belabor the point very, very long. Oh gosh, I've forgotten her name.
Which?
Whatever.
Okay.
Crafts girl. Yuzuriha.
Yuzuriha.
I was feeling really ashamed because like she was the third character named in this series.
That was the tag team. I came up with a letter or a sound. You got it from there.
There we go. So they go, and they harvest a bunch of silkworm cocoons, petrify that, have a lot of material, and yeah, it's insanely strong now. And so, and oh my god, this will take us to space and stuff. A Silk Road of science. So they've got the material for the cable. They start experimenting with it. Like having just like a single strand of the silk dangling over a waterfall, And Kohaku, is the experimental person with it. She, goes sliding down it, and she's like, "Oh man, it's really, really smooth." And so you slide down it really easily, but then it's really hard to get back up. But they've got a plan for that because, of course, it's a conductor, so you can run electricity current down through it, and as a result of that, you can use electromagnetism to travel, just like using a linear motor car or a bullet train. And they, Senku spends a little bit of time explaining this principle and how, like you can use magnets to provide frictionless travel and stuff. This is also getting like reported around the world as we see Minami carrying on her duty there. So we get this big 2-page spread of Kohaku riding up the test cable with this like magnet car thing. She gets all the way up to the top of the waterfall. There's very suddenly a very weird, random, very romantically like shot image of her right next to Senku, which again, last chapter they started playing that up a little bit, so not completely like but like in the context of this chapter comes out of nowhere and is not followed up on at all.
Well, it's because it's part of the commercial, isn't it? Or what they're showing to people. I thought that's what that was supposed to be.
Is it?
Because then we see people watching it on the TV. I thought it was okay. I don't know. Then,
but they're watching Suika and Chrome in the car when it's on the TV.
But isn't she on it? She jumps off and then next to Senku and okay. In my mind, I thought that's what they were supposed to see, and it was just like this is a romantic thing for the people. It'll boost their spirits or whatever. But it might just be let's play with these two a little bit and ship them a little bit harder.
I guess. So yeah, they're going to make a massive goddamn elevator cable that goes all the way into space. They have to make a massive goddamn structure for this, of course. But as they're working on it, Ryusui realizes that something is up. It's just a matter of like intuition. He's like, my intuition's never off about this. And he just starts thinking about like, we're all rushing towards this time machine. Everything's going great. There's this elevator in orbit, something that we're on the verge of accomplishing that's never been done before. It all feels like it's going too well. It's as if we're following a roadmap to the future charted by someone else. But wait, we thought that Senku's dad sent a message from the future. Could Byakuya actually be? And there is a problem where something happens where, like, as they're producing more and more silk, Yuzuri is like, oh, the raw silk's not turning to stone anymore. And the Y-Man says, excess use of Petrobeam, nearly expired is my battery. But this is also kind of suspicious. So because like there's also something happening where like the battery, when it's being replaced, they're like, I thought that this was only when it was used over a wide area, but this was all very like precise, small scale stuff that's been happening. Ryusui gets in communication with some people around the world, and they establish that, yeah, we're having like a mosquito-free summer here. No other parts of Japan are having that. It's isolated to just this region we're working in. So he calls for a bunch of his men to mobilize and start a scavenger hunt. And Francois has already like foreseen this, and they get it going. And then we see shortly afterward Ryusui grabbing just a goddamn katana off the wall and marching over to Y-Man, and he says, "What's the deal with Byakuya? This is sad, but what did we expect? You ain't human, Y-Man. You went and crossed the line you have no business of crossing." And he starts drawing his sword. And this is all like, well, no one else is there, so nobody else knows what's going on. Gen and Chrome and Senku are coming in after a long day of work, and they realize that his workers are running around. And one of them drops a petri dish, and there is a petrified mosquito within it. And Ryusui and Senku realizes something is bad here. So that's the end of our chapter. What's going on? Is Y-Man going to try and betray everyone? What's happening?
It would be wild if they were like, actually, I know we spent the end of the last series was like, there actually is one good one, and it'll be here to help unite humanity forward. But actually, no, this one was a dickhead. This one also kind of a fuck. So sucks, but what are you gonna do?
There's
Nick, do you
all
have
sorts of different things could be happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any theories as to what could be happening?
It seems as though the suggestion seems to be that Y-Man faked the radio broadcast from the future in order to get humanity to work in this direction. That seems to be the idea that we're working towards. It could be something very silly, on the other hand. It could just be like, I hate mosquitoes, so I petrified them all in this area, and that's it.
Sure.
Which I can relate to. But I think that it's going to be something that's like a moderation of that. I feel as if it were like, oh yeah, in order to have you guys try and work towards this goal, I faked it, would be a little bit extreme. But maybe that's it.
Yes. I don't know where this is going to go in the long term, but it is still fun to see some of the character dynamics that we remember from back then and see them again. And it's fun to see, I guess, where this is going to go. Like, that kind of was a bit of the fun of Dr. Stone. Knowing this is so short of a series kind of takes a little bit out of that, but also adds a bit. Like, I know I'm going to be in and out. Like, I'm going to see what happens here, and then, like, you know, I go to bed, more or less, you know.
Right. Cutting out all the chaff. And just, Kaiju number 8, I guess.
Yeah, Nick. Now, after seeing Godzilla -1, my expectations for something involving kaiju is pretty high. Does this live up to it?
Well, there's a bunch of kaiju attacking, explosions happening, people flying, being sent flying.
But what about the humans? What internal struggle are they going through?
Well, Kafka is trying to reach his good buddy Mina in order to help her against Kaiju number 9, but he can't abandon.
Could we put some love in there? Because love always makes things more beautiful. Maybe a found family of some kind.
I imagine that Kafka would consider a lot of the people of his squad his found family.
Aww. Well, now this is beautiful. Now I am excited and looking forward to where this goes.
So Kafka is in problem not because he can't make his way through the kaiju horde, but because all the people around him are now in great danger because of the horde, and he has to stay with them in order to fight them off. Like, there are people in shelters that have kaiju about to blow up buildings, and Kafka has to start fighting them off and beating them up. They're trying to break into shelters and stuff, and he has to stop them and crush them and everything. And Kaiju number 9 is like, yeah, this should be no problem for you to do. You're the next strongest after me right now. But what about the hurt and fatigued officers? What will happen to them if you leave? You're stuck there. Actually, he doesn't say that Kafka is the strongest after him. He says the strongest after me above ground right now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting wording.
Yeah, that is curious.
But Kaiju number 9 has just gotten done bragging about this, and then he nearly gets his head shot off because Mina's like, I'm not just going to stand here and take this, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I'm not just going to let you fucking kidnap and absorb me. Like, I'm going to try to kill you, fuckface.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to shoot you right now. So number 9's like, all right, fine. And he starts launching his own attacks at her. She's dashing around. She's only got her handgun to work with because the cannon she had, I guess, got destroyed. I don't really remember that happening.
I mean, you wouldn't want to use a rifle like that in this situation since it's relatively close range. Like a sniper rifle like this would be...
I guess he's too small.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to like accurately get anything. But something may have happened to it. Maybe it got destroyed in the shot she did last. I don't remember the specifics of whatever, like 3 months ago or whenever that happened.
Right.
We got a bit of a break.
There is also a cool little moment where she fires off a quick barrage of shots at number 9, and he summons an energy shield to block them, and then immediately is like, oh, this isn't enough, and has to deflect it, use it to divert the blast instead. And she's like, shit, she cracked number 2's shield with her freaking handgun. So, you know, she is still insanely strong even without her best weapon. But he realized, like, if I close the distance, you're no better than an average captain. And he just, you know, shouldn't pose behind her to grab at her. And she manages to get one more shot off, but he dodges it and then grabs her by the face and tosses aside her gun and picks her up. And number 9 gets a big evil villain speech while broadcasting to everyone, which is, "Today I bring down Tokyo. Then, using Tokyo as a base, I will bring down the entire country. As proven by the number 6 cataclysm, which boasts the most human casualties of any single event, humans are extremely weak to a giant identified class kaiju. By absorbing Mina Ashiro, incorporating her into my creations, I will birth an army of giant number 6 class kaiju with superb shooting ability, and without Mina Ashiro, its trump card, humanity will have no way to stop them." And he summons a bunch of teeth to devour Mina. And yeah, that's the scary note that we end on, as everyone is so busy fighting off kaiju that are right in front of them. Who's going to stop this? What's going to happen? That's kind of the note we left off on a couple of weeks ago, but this is very much solidifying where we are now.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, it's good that she didn't just get fucking like grabbed and like, aha, pathetic when you have your sniper rifle taken away. Like, she's allowed to put up a resistance and show that like she is like a trained soldier, despite all that. But he is, you know, currently fresh and ready to go, and she just finished a fight and all this sort of stuff, and he's getting to jump on her and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, it keeps him from completely, you know, damseling Mina, which is appreciated. The way it ends is very similar to kind of the tone last time, which makes you think, again, we are going to try to find somebody to save the day. People brought up before that Reno hasn't shown up and has a kaiju weapon, so it would make sense if he shows up. I'll be curious to see what happens here. But there were a lot of little neat points, as you brought up before. A little nugget of like, I'm the strongest one above ground. So it's like, curious what's going on there.
It would be an interesting turn if this just suddenly turned out to just like be the final battle with number 9. Like if Reno shows up, Mina's able to get away, and then, you know, maybe they buy enough time for Kafka to show up and take this guy down. I mean, everyone has had a big battle to individually showcase them, so it could be the case, and then we could just, you know, move on to the next thing. We could reveal that, you know, number 9 was birthed from an even stronger kaiju that is underground somewhere that they have to deal with, or something along those lines. I do highly doubt that Mina's going to get devoured here, because number 9 makes it seem like if that happens, it's just game over. So
yeah, I don't know how they really come back from that if she gets grabbed too, because this guy already has Aso's powers, which is pretty bad.
Yeah. Let's move on to Cipher Academy. Chapter 53.
In case you're listening and maybe stop listening halfway and you're like, but Nick and Quinn, this is where you talk about Eden Zero usually. There's no Eden Zero this week. We're free from it. I'm mostly talking here just to give Nick a moment to rest his precious voice. He's so sensitive. His voice, it's so gravelly and powerful. It needs time to heal, get stronger.
Thank you. It's Cipher Academy, Chapter 53, and yet the Earth still revolves, parentheses, around war.
Great title. Still looking forward to Ninja is always a champion and excellent. Has added a poll, elimination polls. We're going to do a best chapter title of the year for Cipher Academy. But I also specifically was allowed to put a wild card in, and I was like, I don't remember the name of it, but the one that was like a paragraph long. And I saw on the list of them, I was like, that one. I think it was like 23 or 21. I was like, this one that's, every other one's like 1 to 2 lines. This one's like 5 lines. That's the one that's in there.
That's got to be in there, yeah.
Yeah.
We also get on the cover of this a little bit of the previous trial puzzle that Quokka had to undergo.
I think this is so funny that they put the bear woman on trial.
They put the bear on trial.
We still don't know anything about her. I'm so curious what this court case was like.
Apparently, a fish is important to the case, which makes sense. So
that'd be great if she's like, and a honey pot. It looks like is what the other one has. So I really do like the idea. Like she is not a girl.
As you can see, this pot is far too small for a full-size bear's head to fit inside of, but not a teenage girl's.
Yeah, they're like, as you understand, if this was a real bear, it would have devoured this honey along with myself. Ergo, can only be a teenage girl.
Your Honor, I plead, oh bother.
Oh, allowed.
Your Honor, I plead for my client to be given just a smackerel of honey.
Just a single smackerel. Like, well, I'll allow it.
All right.
Well, now, okay.
Your Honor, I protest. This jury is clearly composed of heffalumps and woozles.
Jesus, you're pulling out a lot of Winnie the Pooh lore I had forgotten about. Heffalumps.
Oh man, guess what? Guess what? Nick watched every day when he was 4 years old.
Aww.
All right, so, chapter proper. So Iroha's group is on basement floor 199 of 500, the sewer floor, and so they start kind of planning a little bit in terms of strategy. Basically, they start like road mapping their speed run because they realize, like, okay, look, there's normal floors that you could just, break codes in order to proceed, and they don't have any particular penalties. Then there's dangerous floors where there is a low risk penalty of getting banned to a high risk penalty of dying from an explosion, for example. Then there's the bonus stage floors, which have secret passages that allow you to warp. If you warp through someone else's sacrifice, we don't want to do that because we want to retain as many of the people in our group, of course, as possible, as much as we can. So it would be great if we could find these great areas to warp through, but Enzo also brings the point of like, yeah, but we don't want to spend too much time trying to find those things because then that's just counterproductive. So what if there was a pattern to figuring out where we could counter them instead? So they start thinking about this, and then all of a sudden, Omamuro shows up, and she's like, it's square numbers. There are secret passages on floors that are square numbers. They all carry a small risk, but that's the key. So they're like, oh, wow. Wait, I thought you were ahead of us. And Iroha realized, like, oh my god, you got a game over when you were in the 200s and you're restarting. And you must have been warping in order to catch up to us after this. But they realize that Omuro's really, really, really tired. She, like, collapses next to them shortly afterwards. And Iroha realizes, like, no, this isn't just her first retry attempt. And he demands, like, to know how many runs have you been on during all this. And Omuro kind of realizes, like, oh, well, shit. She says, in terms of reaching floor B250, I got to floor B249 7 times, and I'm on my 8th run now. Yeah, it's a video game strategy. You learn by dying, right?
You speed run it. Like, actually, I found out if I smash my face against the billiards table, I actually just clip through the ground and I get skipped 17 floors that way.
It takes a lot of trial and error, though.
Yeah, my face will never be the same.
But they do also, like, make some references to, like, roguelikes and stuff in terms of doing this, which makes sense because, you're proceeding through a bunch of different rooms in a row. And so they're like, oh, yeah, it's a valid strategy. But in the, peanut gallery, Nohime says, like, no, it's not. Because doing that is how I lost my eyes. There we go.
Interesting.
So they're like, all right, well, what do we do? What do we do now? Enso wants to know if, like, hey, Omura, do you know about the prison floor? Because that's where Obero is stuck. And she says in response, yeah, I haven't managed to reach that one. I was able to avoid all the irreversible penalties. And this floor, I know because I've been on it before, is one of the dangerous ones. Because if you get an answer wrong, you get hit by a flash flood. So you got to be careful. And so they're like, well, what do we do with this? And Ensa is like, yeah, she's incredible. She's still going. She skipped a whole lot, but she's explored like 10 times as many floors as we have while she's been going on all these repetitive runs. But Iroha realizes, like, this is worse than everyone else realizes about this. She has been suffering for like 100 hours straight and has been avoiding irreversible penalties, but there's other penalties that she's been suffering from purposefully so that she can find them and warn others against them so they can avoid them. And so he gets determined and says, hey, Omamoro, I challenge you to a code battle. And if I win, you have to log out. So he ties up his hair and he sets up his puzzle. He just scribbles on the wall a whole bunch of symbols. And Ensa starts to explain, like, hey, look, you know, Iroha is, like, he can communicate with facial expressions, so sometimes he doesn't fully explain things to people as a result of that. But Momoru's like, oh, like, I get what's going on. He's concerned about my safety, but come on, this is, like, humiliating. I'm trying to share intel with him, and he's trying to discharge me for this. Come on. What an ego he's got. But Iroha has laid out the puzzle, and there are symbols that are very strange that are on the wall. And at first glance, Omura realizes, like, yeah, they look like hieroglyphics, but no, they're not. They're simplified constellations. And she immediately realizes, like, okay, you know, if you relate the constellations to syllables, blah, 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 then you've got a message spelled out, and she reads it as if it's that. And Iroha says, hey, you got a time limit of 30 minutes. Here's your hint. There are as many as there are stars in the sky. And while she's looking at the puzzle, he says, a parody mangaka, his dad, tricked me into coming to this school, but you were the first one to teach me how fun codes could be. If it wasn't for that battle, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be anywhere. If ambitious is the cheerleader I aspire to be, you're the Cipher soldier I aspire to be. Even now, I look up to you like a star in the sky. Aww.
It's so adorable. Look at this kid.
And while Omura's looking at him, the symbols he's drawn are twinkling like stars behind her. Aww.
It's very, very sweet. I like the idea he's created like a puzzle that she can't figure out, but she's like, I get why you're trying to keep me from going forward. I get it. You're a good egg.
So she has deciphered the message, and she pulls out of her pocket a recording device. It's like, look, I've encoded all the intel I acquired from Class E and put it here. So please deliver it to Toshisai in my stead. It can be before you lose to her or after you lose to her. And you're just like, how about before I beat her? All right, yeah, fine, that's you. And Amuro logs out, and we see that the message translates to, I vow to the stars, I will deliver your dream to Kyorarin. Whether I stumble or fall, whether I break or crawl, I will fasten your no doubt emo message to an arrow and pierce her heart with it.
Jesus.
And everyone's like, huh, yeah. That's the first time I've ever seen her admit she lost, and she actually solved the code, too. But, yeah, she puts her trust in Iroha, and we get an establishment that there are now 13 players left in the game, and we get a split panel 2-page spread of all of them and the different points that they're in, with Iroha's group in the center. Their area is shaped like a lock as they're rushing down the tunnel away from water. It's a very cute individual panel, but it's also really neat to see everyone else laid out in all the groups that they formed around them.
Yeah, I like that we get to see the different groups that are going on and what they're all up to. I love the different things we're seeing. Some of them are in a museum of some kind, like with sculptures. One of them, they have to make giant jigsaw puzzle pieces out of wood. Mm-hmm. But the one that I really want to see is the one that Toshisai and Yugata are doing, which just seems to be shopping. I want to go to the shopping floor and figure out that code. That seems like that'd be a good time.
Mm-hmm. And the question we're left with is, who of the remaining 13 will become the Code Emperor?
Me.
Yeah, it could be. Why not?
Could be me.
It's a nice chapter just to kind of like reestablish like some like character interaction stuff. This was sweet. I liked it.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I enjoyed it. But Nick, it is time to talk about those green greens. This is where the greens grow. Grass is always greener on the other side. Green with envy.
Green grass and high tides. Chapter 4. If I'm going to do this. If we're going to do this, says Haku, they need to establish rules and a handicap, as he is getting set for his match with Chikara, where they're going to be in a driving contest. So Haku says, like, okay, look, let's just keep this nice and simple. Distance. Whoever, like, shoots the furthest wins. And immediately the other workers are like, oh my god. The worst possible thing he could have selected for this. But again, the rules of the contest are nice and simple, which are like, okay, look, well, let's just hit 10 balls. Whichever one has the furthest drive wins. That'll make it nice and easy to name the winner. And Shikara's like, you sure about this? This is my strength.
Yeah,
and
this is my wheelhouse, kiddo.
Yep. And Aku's like, oh, you're so honest. You shouldn't tell me that.
What's his name? Haku is
Haku.
He's really fun in this chapter. He's like, I wish you weren't such a good guy. Stop like giving me your details.
I think that this chapter is a return to form for Haku's goofier side again, after he was just kind of being a little bit generically shown in the most recent couple. He's very silly and shameless in this chapter. But he's like, yeah, you know, you're really good at this, and that's what'll make this a worthwhile contest, is me trying to overcome you. It's like, huh, what a weird protagonist thing. But so Chikara's like, okay, what should the handicap be? And Haku names like a bunch of different options.
It's so funny. Yeah, they all just go from
immediately is like,
this guy's
really cowardly.
Yeah, this guy goes, he's like, wow, he's so cool. He doesn't even care what this handicap is. He's gonna do great. And he's like, I should pick your club. You use old shitty balls. I get 30 extra yards for free. And they're like, never mind. I
get to kick you in the nuts in between every shot.
It comes very close to that at times. It's very much like, fuck you, you suck kind of stuff.
Yeah. So. And I do like that Haku just like obviously just like named options that he knew would be like good handicaps, but then he seems legitimate. Like, what were those like bad options to suggest? Like, I mean, it's like, I guess they're
all very good, but
yeah. So they're like, look, okay, fine, I'll do one handicap for you, which is, I'd like to just pick your club. As long as it's a driver,
yeah.
I want to pick
I won't give you a putter and make you fucking try to do it.
And Chikara's like, oh, okay, fine. This starts to attract a little bit of attention because, of course, there's, you know, a contest between the workers at the course going on. Oga sets something up, which is a TrackMan golf launch monitor. So they can actually, you know, track how far the trajectory of the ball is going to take it. She also says, like, yeah, I'm like 1% responsible for this, so I figured I should help. And they're like, you're like 99% responsible for this. Maybe not that much, but yeah, definitely.
I was gonna say, I don't know about 99% responsible, but all right.
More than one, yes. Haku is warming up, and everyone's like, oh boy, he doesn't look all that good. He hits the ball, and he's got a good drive. He manages to hit it 239 yards. Wow, it's good drive, good for him. But they're like, man, what a fluke though, like, because he was not doing good before. And then, yeah, in Haku's own head, he's like, oh my god, thank god I hit it properly for once, thank god. But you know, some of the older guys who are hanging around and now watching the contest are like, yeah, he practices all the time, so it makes sense that he's getting better at this. But Haku is like, okay, yeah, you know, this is only my first shot. Can't relax yet. But no, I win. In the past 10 days, I've used every club this place has to offer, so I know the one I've given Chikara is so old and worn out that no matter how good his swing is, there's no chance he makes it past 200 yards. I scored 240. He's not beating that with that club. No way, no how. I'm sorry, but the victory is mine.
It's so funny. He's so calm. I love his shitty face. He's like, I win. My vote, anyone
I've
this
won.
game. Yeah.
He becomes the villain.
Yeah. That's what makes this character endearing. It makes me like this series, though, so I like that they channeled into it again.
Chikara hits with the really shitty club. It's 278 yards, and everyone's like, "Holy shit!" It's like, how is this possible? But the other workers are like, "Yep, that's what was gonna happen." And Chikara's like, "Yeah, I admit, my swing was not that good. But yeah, you want more of a handicap?"
Yeah, do you need more? What's gonna go on here?
And Haku's like, yes, I need more handicap, please.
And again, everyone's like, you were so cool at the start, and you're so embarrassing now.
And Hoga's like, have some dignity. He's like, no, I'm running out of options here.
He's like, no, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna have to leave.
So he starts to panic. He's like, oh my god, 280 yards. No, what am I gonna do? And Oga says, like, look, there's no shame in admitting defeat. And he says, no! I want to win this. I'm going to hang on for as long as I can. And he thinks like, okay, I've got to do at least stop him from getting a further drive than he already has. But what do I do? Because like the club didn't work. And then he's like, he's gnawing at his finger. And he looks down at his hand, and he looks at the glove. And he says, "You're really okay with one more handicap? Yeah, it's fine. Then I want you to wear this torn glove I've been wearing." And the other workers are like, what kind of handicap is that? But Oga realizes what's happening, and she gets this horrified look on her face. And Chikara takes a beat, and then he goes, "You beast!"
Yeah.
So Oga has to explain, like, yeah, I gave Haku those gloves, so if they give it to him, oh, he is holding Chikara's heart hostage. That evil man. So Chikara's like, if I use my full strength, I'll ruin this precious glove, which he, of course, very firmly established in the last chapter, he would treat as a treasure.
Yeah. I love her like response to it. Again, like great facial expression, just like he's like, no, I can never destroy this. It's just like, and then turns the guy and gets like, you're the worst. You're such a fucking scumbag.
He's so awful. Everyone's like, you suck. You're the worst person.
And then he admits it. He's like, yes, this sucks. But I want to win.
He says, like, look, I hate that my best doesn't even reach Hagio's feet. I know he's been golfing longer than me, but if I'm going to do this, I want to win. I'll do anything to win. I don't want to lose with grace. I don't care how lame I end up looking. I want to win. And it's like, hey, sure.
Yeah. This dude's...
Yeah.
I hate this because, like, we haven't obviously gotten to the point where this series is going to be officially ranked yet. But I'm so worried it's going to start with, like, a low rank. And I'm like, it's because this character is, like... I don't want to say, like, it's too nuanced and mature for children. But I'm like, I do feel like there's a bunch of people who are just going to be like, this dude's unlikable. And I'm like, but that's what makes him good. He's so unlikable.
He's likably unlikable. It's weird, yeah. But, and this does, like, Oga does understand now what's going on with him. So she kind of backs off a little bit. And they're all like, I guess if Chikara accepts it, it's fine. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, like 280 yards, like Haku, how is he supposed to get that? He just barely got, less than 240 yards with his best shot. So Oga says, I at least owe him a bit of advice. If I were him, I'd withdraw, but... And she approaches, and she goes to Chikara first and says, like, hey, please. And he's like, oh, she said please. This boy. He says, let me offer him a bit of advice. If you're going to go at all this trouble, let's make sure there are no regrets. I'm going to show you Yasaki's 280-yard power drive. So, it's going to help Haku to achieve some more of his potential, it seems.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes next time.
Should be fun. Like this chapter a whole lot. Haku, such a cool, fun little goofball, slime ball dork. It's great. Nick, do you want to talk about girls?
Girls. It's Nue Sexorcist.
Do you want to talk about girls whose tops have fallen off and they cannot get them back on?
It's like their hands don't work. It's so embarrassing. Chapter 31, Struggles in the Darkness.
Ugh, that chapter title's gross, knowing the context of the chapter.
That's like Uwu Struggles in the Darkness. Like that's what what it reminds me of.
This just grossed in me.
All right, so last time, fucking Gakuro and Shiroha and Suo fled into a cave. A barrier fell behind them, so they're now separated from Shitotsu, who is already taking care of all the level 2 spirits outside. She's fine. She got rid of them really easily. It's like if the three of them had just waited 2 minutes before fleeing into the cave, they would have been fine, and this would have all been avoided. So they report to Shitotsu like, yeah, we're all okay. And Shitotsu's like, all right, well, I'll look for another way in. You guys keep going. And Gakuro's like, wait, we don't know. She's already gone. She's already walked off without making sure they heard her. So they're like, all right, we better go and meet with her. But they're in the darkness, and the girls still have bikini tops undone that they're just holding up.
Mind-boggling.
Frozen.
Truly baffling in this moment.
So they're like, all right, yeah, I guess we should get moving. But, oh my god, there's a spider in the darkness. And Shiroha's shivering while tripping onto Gakuro's shoulder. And he's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. These guys are bigger problems than not being able to look them in the eyes. I have to keep everyone calm and safe. Bunch of torches go on in the cave. Light everything up. And they're immediately like, oh my god, torches, we can see and stuff. And immediately Shiroha takes her hand off of Gakuro's shoulder. And Gakuro's like, I don't get it, but I'm glad there are lights. It seems to have put their minds at ease. Oh no, their tops are falling off! Ah! So he gets an idea, which is, all right, I'm going to close my eyes and look away, so fix your swimsuits. Okay. Past this, right? We're past this?
We're done now. We figured this out.
A spider falls on the floor, and then the torches go out immediately! For no reason! So now they're in the dark, and Suo and Shiroha are like, whoa! And they run towards Gakuro to grab onto him, and they're like, ah! And Gakuro's like, did you fix your swimsuit? No. Can you fix it for me?
Why?
Can you?
Why?
Gakuro!
There's two of you! Just be like, hey, let me fix your swimsuit first, then you fix my... Like, I don't understand if this has to be a two-person job, which they're not. Like, you can tie a bikini top on your own. It's not like... it doesn't need a full team to do it, but whatever. Why aren't you just asking each other? I don't understand why they have to, like, mule over this guy.
So he ties Suo's bikini for her. So, Suo... You don't need to dedicate both hands to holding up your bikini top. Gakuro, now tie on Shiroha's. Fuck, why? He ties it on. And then they're like, it's still dark, so let's hold hands and go.
How? Because, like, all right, so in this chapter that's all about girls being topless, you would assume that, like, oh, this is just like a pervy thing. But of course, you've read this series, so you know it has almost no fan service in it whatsoever. Like, fan service stuff happens, but it's just not drawn in any sexy way at all. The closest thing we get is we get back in this. If you're really into, like, lady back, maybe that's good for you. How can he see it if it's this fucking dark? Like, he's supposed to be nervous about this. And I'm like, does Gakuro have dark vision? Was that a detail about him that was, like, described in some... I don't understand why they are all flocking to him, why he is getting so nervous about everything. If they can't see where their tops are to tie them, then why is he even worried about seeing their boobs? I don't get it, Nick.
I don't get it either. So they start going through the darkness, and then they're like, oh, maybe instead of walking side by side while holding hands, we should walk single file so that we are safe from, like, attack. So Gakuro walks in the middle, Shiroha walks in front, Suo takes the back. Gakuro flashes back to a conversation that he had with Butler Boy, which was, if you let go of her hand in the dark, bad things will happen to her. And Gakuro thinks, Yeah, well, it was her idea to do this, so I guess I'll listen to her. What's going to happen to Shiroha that's so bad that she needs to be held in darkness? It's that she stumbles around clumsily.
I
She
fucking hate
trips.
this
She
so
walks
much.
into walls.
I was willing to go on board with her being like, I want to hold your hand while we go to sleep because I get lonely. Otherwise, I was like, I can go along with
She's
this
traumatized.
for a
Yeah.
step. This is like a level of infantilism that's just insulting and annoying. Like, I don't understand. Like, oh, actually, she holds someone's hand in the dark. Otherwise, she's just a clumsy little silly Billy and she'll fall down all over the place. And isn't it cute? It's like, fuck off.
She
I-
struggles in the darkness. Oh.
I hate this fucking manga so goddamn much. Like, I don't understand what they're trying. Like, it's a constant battle between trying to make these characters seem like they're going to be any kind of competent, and then the next shot is them being like, oh, but if it was a little dark out, I couldn't do anything. Like, what are you talking? You fought in the fucking dark before. What are you talking about?
Ooh, she's so stumbly and baby-like. Remember when her boobs were out? God!
I truly hate this. I'm a little bit what's the word, resentful of the fact that people didn't vote this out. Like, I'm glad I don't have to talk. I'm a little glad that I don't have to talk. I'm probably more glad I don't have to talk about Kagurabachi, but this chapter was the epitome of everything that I hate about this series so much.
This was the most infuriating chapter we've covered so far in this series. This was stupid. And it's not over, too. No. The big thing that comes out is that Gakuro realizes that the reason that Shiroha is not holding hands with him is that allows her to better sense his feelings and emotions. So she senses the dream that he had last night, where he went on a date with both of them. And so he realized, like, oh no, yeah, let's just like get it out in the open. Yes, I, your leader, had a dream about dating the two of you. Does that make things less awkward now that that's out in the open? That I, your leader, your boss, your commander,
Nick,
have romantic thoughts about you two?
I have an additional thought I need to ask, because I can't. Where did they get the shirts?
I don't know what you're talking about, Quinn.
They're all wearing shirts now.
I noticed that my first time reading too.
What? If they had shirts, why was the swimsuit top thing even a thing? Just wear the shirt. What? Where did they get the shirts?
They just appear. From one page to the next.
I was like staring at the panel, and I was like looking. I was like, oh, the shirt.
Something about this seems off.
And I was like, wait, where'd they get the shirt? And I like looked back. I was like, oh, maybe they like grabbed it off of like I don't know what I was gonna say, like a mummy or something. Like, I don't. Must be some establishing panel where they found these shirts. No, they got shirts, and I'm like, why?
It's just they're all in their swimsuits one page, and then you turn the page, and they're all wearing shirts, and that's just it.
Come on! At some point, Ashton Kutcher is supposed to come out and tell me I'm pranked! Like, I'm not supposed to keep going!
Anyway, Gakuro says, like, yeah, I got all self-conscious because I had a dream about dating you guys. I'm sorry for causing trouble. And then Sua's like, oh, is that why you weren't able to look us in the eye? Yeah, I'm sorry. And then Sua's like, oh, wow, Shiroha. Yeah, I guess he wants to date us, huh? And then Shiroha blushes. Yep.
Cool. That's out in the open. All thanks to Shiroha and her magical fucking mind sensing emotion power or some shit. It's all nonsense, but I guess now it's out in the open that he has a crush on both of them.
Cool. So Shitotsu gets to the village and is like, wait a minute, there's a barrier that's trapped me inside here, and there's also a dense spirit aura, but I don't see anyone. What the hell's going on? And she says, what the hell are the others doing? And then a guy says, they're here. Good. This should be enough. My code straps are very excited about this development.
Yeah, this guy with his fucking Jinko jeans and his fucking leather sleeves.
Get out of here. You're not our son.
Yeah, we have one boy. All right. Nick, I would be embarrassed if I released this chapter. I don't know how else to say it. This is an embarrassing thing to read. Like, we read a lot of garbage, and like Eden Zero most weeks is usually like a testament to just doing stuff that's like tasteless and dumb. But this is such a pathetic chapter of like two capable women who have to spend the whole chapter clinging to a guy because their tops fell off last chapter in a way that they can't figure out a way to get them back on themselves. They can't work together to do it. They apparently have shirts that they just grab at some point.
Where were they keeping them?
Who knows? I truly have zero idea. Maybe Gakuro had all three shirts in his swim trunks and he pulled them out. He's like, oh, actually, I have these, my crotch shirts. It's just pathetic. It's embarrassing. Like, I understand you could do this in like a harem manga, but in a manga where I'm supposed to take these two as like capable warriors, it's just like I get it, they're teenagers, but it's embarrassing to treat them this way. Like, these characters seem pathetic now. It's just like a embarrassing premise of a chapter. Like, two girls can't get their tops back on and they have to wander through a scary cave with a guy. It's not interesting in any way. It's just dumb. The main premise of the chapter, or the fallout of the chapter, revolves around Shiroa's stupidly ill-defined "I can sense what you're feeling" thing. And he's like, oh, we need to talk about the fact that you had the chastest, like the most chaste dream you physically could have had about two girls that you're surrounded by.
I had a dream about you both. You were much better clothed than you are right now. But that's what I'm embarrassed about, not this.
Yeah, I was humiliated that I showed up and you were both dressed rather cutely at a bus stop, and like it's just nothing. I don't get what this series is trying to capture. It's not like cool. It's not intense. It's not emotional. If it was even what it was going for, I don't understand if it's supposed to be sexy or something like that. I don't get, like, I truly don't understand what this series goes for 99% of the time. It feels like so many ideas trying to be done at once. And this chapter is, like, just fails at every single one of them. Like, the fact that, like, I mentioned this last week, that, like, 3 chapters ago, there was, like, a fucking whiteboard to explain different positions of fucking captains and all that sort of nonsense, and now it's over here like, I can't tie my bikini top back on. Can I hold your hand through the darkness? It's just so fucking, like, just embarrassing. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm dressed like a bunny, and I'm here telling you that it's embarrassing. I don't know what else to say.
It's pretty bad. All right. Shadow Eliminators. Chapter 3. Moment of Truth coming up. It's Chapter 3, Cocoon of Prayer. Said cocoon is over the top of a shrine, a marriage shrine that a girl goes to pray at to hope that her friend has a good love life. We'll cut away from there, catch up with the Shadow Eliminators Club and how they're doing. Turns out they've been getting a lot of people actually coming to see them because that super popular senpai actor guy that they helped out last time gave them both a shout out. And so kind of drove people towards them that are having problems. Every now and again, they get someone who's got a spirit thingy haunting them, and they take out this thread thingy to seal it. And so things are going well. But then a big thing happens. A girl on the roof. She's oh my god, she's jumping. She's going to end her life. And so the Exorcist guy jumps out the window, and as he's jumping, reveals the spirit that is casting the girl to her death, and somehow catches her inside the building. Don't know how that happened. Does not make physical sense. I thought he was going to jump out and grab her and, like, superhero landing safely. But that's not what happened.
He vacuums her in somehow. He used
the technique that he uses to do it.
He used the spirit tool to whoop her in or something. We had to pick up the pace. We spent so long talking, shitting all over Nue Sexorcist. Sadly, Shadow Eliminator, sadly, in big quotes, might have to take the cut here.
So the girl is the one who went to pray at the shrine before, and they're like, what's going on? And she's like, it's my fault. One of my friends disappeared, and I know that it's because of me. But Glasses Guy says that he remembers the girl that has disappeared because he's memorized every single name and face in the student handbook. He knows everyone and, the memberships that they belong to and stuff. But no one else in the school seems to know who the girl Nana is. And like her name's been removed from the seating chart. Nobody in her club remembers her. It's basically like she never existed at all. And the only people that remember her are this girl and Glasses Guy. Exorcist Boy sees that there is something that is lancing out of her, like, and going off into the distance. And he says, like, hey, you said that you thought it was your fault that she disappeared, but don't you think the other way would be better? Ooh, whatever. The girl goes to like grab the attention of some boy that she prayed for like good love and stuff with, get a flashback of them together where they learned about where she found out from her friend that she was going to confess to the guy. She looked up this marriage shrine, went to go see it. The lantern house thing comes out and smacks Glasses Boy in the face, and Exorcist Guy is like, yeah, put up a barrier, but I don't know how to use it. And then it works, and he sets up a barrier, and there's a spirit surrounding the girl. And she's like, oh, it's all my fault. It's all because I wished for Nana to be happy. And Exorcist Boy slays the spirit, and he's like, you didn't do anything wrong. Tell me, where did you wish for her happiness? Threads don't just attack people. They can also layer themselves over places and things. They try to grow bigger by lashing themselves onto people and feasting on the shadows of their hearts. And so she takes them back to the marriage shrine, and this time she's able to see the weird spectral cocoon over the gate. And Exorcist Boy says, it's okay, I'll slay it. Quinn, this is the best chapter of this series so far. There are ideas in it that I think could potentially be interesting. That said, I read that chapter, I experienced that thought, I walked away from it, and 2 days later I was like, did I read Shadow Eliminators? I don't remember a goddamn thing that happened in it.
I will. So yes, I'm on the same wavelength as you, to a certain extent. I didn't think this was the best chapter. I thought this was the worst chapter they had. This one was more boring than the other ones. I was like, at least the other ones, I guess, because they had to establish the premise of this series, were more interesting. But this, like, I don't know. I feel like the big challenge I have with this series so far is that it doesn't do anything interesting with the dilemmas these characters have. It doesn't like try to like put an interesting hook or anything in there. These characters just sit there like, this is my problem. It's bad. I feel emotions. And then he's like, well, what if I cut those emotions up and you didn't feel them anymore? And then like, I guess the
that's what therapy is, right? That someone just comes in and cuts out the bad thoughts.
Oh my gosh, I wish. I think that's actually hypnosis. They're just like, why don't those just go down? But the end of it's like a cliffhanger, so I guess this is maybe the most exciting the series has been. Like, ooh, he won't solve the problem immediately. We'll give a little bit of time for this to simmer, ? Which maybe will mean next chapter be cool, but this isn't a particularly great series. Nick, we finished 3 chapters. The big question, of course, on the table, are we going to keep reading Shadow Eliminators? No, for me. Yeah, I don't think this one had much of a shot. Sorry, there's just too many goddamn Exorcist series in this world, and you gotta do something pretty unique out of the gate, I think, to succeed.
Yeah, this doesn't do anything particularly well or particularly ridiculously badly, so there is no real reason for us to go with it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, yep. Let's talk about 2 on Ice, Chapter 13, Adult. So yeah, in order to get over Hayuma's nervousness when doing pairs skating with Kisara, they're going to consult with an ex-couple pair, Yuni, the girl, and Kotaro. We established very quickly that Kisara and Yuni know each other, and immediately, like, Hayuma's kind of caught off guard because Yuni's like wearing a pretty skimpy top for this kind of meeting. I mean, it's just basically a sports bra, and
it's a very strappy sports bra. Usually you'd want some kind of coverage up top if you were like trying to actually create it, but she's allowed to wear what she wants.
Yeah, it's very cleavagey, and there is a note where,
to the point where you're like, that can't provide any support, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what she's trying to accomplish other than producing cleavage, honestly. But
Again, it's
you know,
her choice, but yeah, it
it's
is.
up to her. They do make a joke about that immediately because she's like, "Oh, Kisara, you've gotten so big." And Kisara's like, "I was gonna say the same thing, hey," because she's got big boobs. Yeah. So, they pair off a little bit, where the two of them are talking a little bit, and they're catching up. And Kotaro comes over to Hayama. He's like, "Oh, you're the guy everyone's been talking about. Yeah, you've been copying Kisara's moves and stuff. Totally wicked." This guy's got piercings and stuff, and so Hayama's kind of like trying to get a grasp of how flashy this guy is. He's kind of intimidating him at first. So they offer to show off, their routine a bit, and so they're like, "All right, Hayama, Kisara, you skate together," and immediately they, cinch up, and Hayama goes, "Aah!" And literally Kotaro goes, "Lol." So he's great. So they go off to perform instead, and I forgot about this detail. They perform their skate program to Justin Bieber's Mistletoe.
I don't even know this song existed.
What a sensual romantic song.
What a classic.
I assume. We're the wrong age to be reading this kind of manga.
Yeah, I'm starting to think I should go home. I mean, I guess I am home, but
yeah. Yeah, so apparently it's like all romantic and stuff. The only thing that I'm taking in, however, is that Hayama wears a shirt that reads "cool" and Kisara wears a shirt that says "a little." So
well, it's weird because I think they show earlier he has a shirt that says "cool body," and she has something else. But it looks like some of that shirt, like the text, vanishes at some point.
I guess so. So they are like, "Oh wow, that was like a very sensuous routine they did. Are they like actually broken up? Huh?" And so the girls go off to talk, the guys go off to talk and try to work their routine, the problems that Kisara and Hayama are having and everything. And so Uni brings up that yeah, when we first paired up, my heart would race all the time because I had never been so close to a boy before, and Kotaro would try and act all cool, but he was nervous too. He was convinced that we would never learn any moves. He would get really worked up and start crying. Hayama's actually further along than he was when you think about it, because he's able to actually at least start. So, but she promised look, you two are gonna be fine. It just takes a little bit of time for everyone to mature. And then she starts skating, and I guess to practice. Kotaro's watching them through a window, and he's like, "Oh my god, she's so cute and pretty. I feel great just watching her." And Hayama's like, "Huh." He's not even acting like they're broken up. And then he immediately falls into despair. He's like, "Oh, okay, they are broken up."
I do like this detail of him being like, "Oh, she looks so gorgeous out there." He's like, "Oh man, he's doing pretty good." Slam. Oh, yeah, okay, they are broken up.
Yep. And she broke up with him. But Kotaro says, yeah, look, I do feel that way, but having these feelings is important. I mean, it's probably not the same way with Natsuya, because he performs with his sister, but at some point, you two are probably gonna perform a love song, and that's when you have to tap into your feelings in order to properly, evoke the right feeling in your performance. So, this moment where you get close to her and you feel nervous and your heart starts pounding, that's important. You're going to need to, when later on, draw on that feeling when you need to. And so Hayama realized, oh, the reason why they're able to have that very passionate romantic performance is they remember their feelings from before they were at right now. Okay. Also, then Kotaro warns him, "Don't start going out with your partner. Don't do that, because you will break up eventually, and it's horrible. It's awful. Don't do it. Don't become me." And it's nice that he has that advice.
I was curious because I was like, I wonder if this is like a thing of like figure skaters in pairs are frequently like, you have to date. That is actually, I guess, a relatively common thing.
It's probably
There is uh, it looks like a metric done back in 2018 that figure skaters who are romantically involved score lower than those who aren't dating.
makes perfect sense, honestly. Because I mean, yeah, like there's got to be more consistency if that's not the case when you think about it. You know, if you're able to just be professional and focus on the performance without that stuff getting in the way. Anyway, uh, so yeah, Kotaro gives them all that advice. Actually, he's referring to him as Tora. I forgot because he thinks it's a cool nickname because it has like the same reading basically. But he's like, look, when you have that feeling of like getting embarrassed, and you've got to get past that. If you get embarrassed because you accidentally touch Kisara in a place you're not supposed to touch, save apologizing for later, because you cannot let go of her in the middle of a performance. It will be dangerous.
I feel like this is the point that really needs to have been hammered home earlier. Is like it's less about like, oh, I can't believe. I mean, it is an important thing of her being like, I thought you weren't like the other guys. But this feels like the point they should have hammered in from the beginning. Is like it's really dangerous to let go of your partner while you're figure skating in pairs. Like this is not a safe sport in a lot of ways.
Yep. So Kisara and Hayuma meet back up again. They're like, all right, let's try doing this. And they start skating together, and things are going a bit better, but then they slip and they stumble and fall. But they're like, it's okay. You didn't just freak out and let go of her. You just stumbled normally. You're not used to skating together. It's okay, and you'll get used to it. And they do end up like with their faces close to each other, and Hayuma does back off, and he's like, I'm sorry, I slipped. But Kisara's like, it's fine. And she's also a little bit embarrassed. She's like, yeah, you were better than last time. You know. Yeah. So she's also clearly a bit
and we could see her shirt says, I can skate a little.
I can skate a little. Yes, you can. and Kotaro and is watching them and they're like, oh, they're both good kids. They part on good terms with Tora saying like, hey, whatever performance you little squirts bring, we're gonna beat you. Yeah, sports. Yeah. And then it's Christmas Eve. Wouldn't you know it? It's 1 week until Christmas Eve, and the Holy Knight's gift from God was right on their heels. What? What's happening? All right. So, yeah. And Kisara asks Sayuma, like, hey, next week on Christmas Eve, are you free? Do you want to come over? And she's a bit embarrassed to ask him. So, they're going to be spending Christmas Eve together. What could be happening? So,
yeah, we'll see what happens there. There's some entertaining stuff in here. This is the most I've probably enjoyed 2 on Ice in a while. It felt like it was more concrete as like a way to get us to know these characters a little bit better and have them interact with like relatable characters in a way that was like amusing. It's fun. Like I had fun reading chapter.
While emphasizing the importance of a facet of paired skating. So that's good too. The Elusive Samurai, Chapter 138, Commander. Genba and Natsu are watching over things, planning about stuff. Natsu thinks to herself, like, Moro now has some generals over here. I could get away and make reports and provide some intel on Nikie's army. Because she's still working as a double agent, still planning on betraying them as a spy. Nita, the young warrior, is fighting people with the glaive spear thing, and he's killing people with it. Get narration saying, yep, he was a good warrior because he got, praised as an excellent warrior when he was in single digits. This kid was crazy. Okay? There are some other attendants who are helping him out as well, and Nita says, hey, look, Kojiro, that Nagao guy that you wanted to fight, he's super strong, and he's over there. And they tell him, like, yeah, go ahead, do it. Go fight that guy. And Kojiro goes up and is like, fight me! And Nagao says, like, hey, Uesugi, can I fight this guy? Yeah. Cool. All right. So Kojiro gets his cool sword thing ready, and they start fighting, and then we cut away. All right. So Tokiyuki is squaring off now with Sanamune. And there is a cool moment where there is a comparison of their archery techniques, because Tokiyuki fires and Sadamune fires. Sadamune's shot is so powerful that it tears past Tokiyuki's head and even goes through the shield that Ayako raises to try and block it, and like leaves a giant hole in the shield. Whereas Tokiyuki's arrow falls short of Sadamune. There's just a far different strength in their forces. So Sadamune's forces start charging. They come across Ayako, who's got her war club ready, and there's a guy who recognizes Ayako when she gave her distraction dancing performance in the street a while ago. And she's like, "Oh, the dancing girl. Yeah, you were great. I mean, Ogasawara would employ you as a dancer." And she's like, "Sorry, I wield a weapon in battle now." "Ha! Yes, sorry about that. Let's fight."
Yeah. It's actually, I do like that transition of like, "Oh, very well then. To battle then, Kershunk."
It's a very nice moment, honestly. She's fending this guy off while Tokiyuki, is observing Sadamune. He starts to command his forces and is like, "Oh, come on, drive them back." And Sadamune realizes like he's trusting his men to defend himself so that he can inspire the whole group while he just remains safe and confident in their defense. So he plans like, okay, we'll go upstream, we'll circle around behind them, go through their rear ranks, and I'll shoot him and flee while they're off guard. And he puts that plan to action. They ride through it really quickly. He fires on Tokiyuki, who has to like dodge the shot from behind and swerve out of the way. And Sadamune immediately is forced to flee. But as Sadamune is observing Tokiyuki's reaction to this, he's like, "Wait, what's he doing? What's that stance he's making? It's like he's firing, but he doesn't have a bow. He's mimicking the way that I just fired my bow." And Tokiyuki is really, excited by what he's just done. He's avoided this, and he remembers the advice that he was given, which is that he needs to learn from Sadamune's archery style, not Akie's. Sadamune is the one that he's got to watch and observe and steal from. And Sadamune, in this moment, realizes he's not only defending himself, he's trying to take from me during this battle. And he starts to get really amped up over this as well. And he says something very cool, which is, "You may yet learn my greatest skill, but then you die." Nice.
Yeah. This is some cool stuff. I like that it's like, all right, we're gonna pay back to the main fight that this series has sort of started on. And it's good. Like, Sadamune has been a well-established villain, a rival, I guess, or something for Tokiyuki to chase since the beginning of this, and now it's finally coming to a head. It's good. This is satisfying.
Yeah, I like this chapter, and it's nice to have that. So, you know what this chapter almost didn't have? Akie. But you know what, Quinn? When Akie is not on screen, people should be talking about Lord Akie.
Yeah, like, you know what was really cool is Akie. I bet Akie could have figured this out.
God. Akane-banashi, story 91, errands to run. And this will be our last chapter today, because there's no One Piece this week. Akane is out and about. She's got cute little pigtails in this chapter. And she's going to meet up with her friend Jumbo. And she's, kind of just catching up with him in terms of what she's been up to in Rakugo, especially in terms of their Futatsume prep for Asagao. And Jumbo's like, "Wow, yeah, I thought when you're making that costume, you're just like making a Halloween costume." And she says, "Yeah, I don't have time for that." Makes sense.
I do like her thing. She's like, "I don't have time for that nonsense. Everything I do is Rakugo."
Everything. And she also kind of tracks her progress a bit in terms of hey, I'm working towards becoming a Futatsume. I've got to know 50 stories, and now I'm up to 39. I mean, she knew 6 stories, remember, in that important chapter previously. And also she's learning other stuff for the promotion. But the big thing, of course, is she needs to have a recommendation by one of the Arch 4. And so Jumbo's like, "Oh, wow, yeah, not too long ago, you were panicking over that one story you were performing." And Akane's like, "Don't remind me about that, shut up." And then while he's looking through her pictures on her phone, because she gave it to him so he could look over shots from the performance, he sees Karashi in his fox costume, And he's like, wait, isn't that the guy who was in the... Yeah, and she's like, yeah, he was in the competition with me last year. We were in the same, like, class of Rakugo, basically. And Jumbo gets a weird look on his face, and she's like, what is it? Oh, it's just, you know, like, he's kind of mean, you know? And Akane's like, oh, yeah, you can be kind of harsh sometimes. But he's a nice guy. Karashi's cool. Cut to Karashi's like, I felt a horrible chill. A girl I hate was saying nice things about me. And he is having some coffee with Hikaru. They've kept up their like weird association since in the last couple of times that they've met each other. And Hikaru brings up like, oh yeah, remember when you were like, that girl, I'd rather be her opponent. Now you're this guy in this costume right here, pointing to him in the background while Akane's in her costume. A Tanuki costume. And she's like, yeah, and you even gave her my photo album. It's like, no! I have my reasons, alright? Stop! We're not friends! Also, we're not friends. Yeah. This is not a friendly relationship at all. So Asagao, you know, he thinks about like, hey, you know, like, he just remembers what Chocho told him. Like, look, just focus on this event. So he's like, look, I've got my own reasons for everything and stuff. Hikaru starts pouting as well because he's like, oh, you could have invited me to this fun event too. Like, all right, well, whatever. She also, it turns out, like, came to, like, observe Akane during one of these performances that they've been having, and, like, hung out in disguise and also backstage as well. But Akarashi says, like, you know, I saw the Arakawa New Breeze, that show performance, and yeah, it was the Kaisei show. The only other person who maybe benefited was Koguma. And so Hikaru was like, yeah, I get it. I know I'm inexperienced. And I know that I'm going nowhere fast. I need a weapon even greater than the 8 blind men technique. So it seems as though she basically fully prepped for her one competition for Akane, and then was like, that's what she had for that moment.
Yeah, that was that was the ace up the hole, or ace up the sleeve, was like, I'll do my voice acting to throw them off. Everyone will be so impressed. And she got to a competition with like crazy talent. She's like, oh no. No,
I've got to do more. Yeah, so now it's Karashi starting to mock her a little bit in return, like, yeah, you're getting so worked up over this and everything. And then he says, like, hey, if you ever want to hold a study event too, you know, hit me up. Maybe I'm available. Which he seems also, based on body language, maybe a little bit embarrassed to be offering that to her. Then he gets up to leave, and he's like, yeah, I got some errands to run. And Akane, at the same time, has errands to run. So we cut back to the other conversation between her and Jumbo as they're walking away from the diner. And she says, yeah, I've got this big debut event in a bit. I've got practice with Master. And Jimbo's like, man, that's a lot of work. And she says, that's not so bad. And she talks about her friends outside of the Rakugo world. And she's like, yeah, Risa's, you know, looking for jobs. Yuka's doing illustrations on the side. And you've got your judo. So, you know, everyone's doing their best at something. So I can't be the only one not keeping up. Aww. Mm-hmm. The errand that both Akane and Karashi have to run is meeting up with Asagao, and by coincidence, they happen to arrive at the exact same time. And Asagao, and so they're like, "Well, it's coincidence that we just ran into it." And so Asagao's like, "I don't care, come on." Just
Do you ever worry that because this is manga, they're just gonna force ship them together, and it's not just that these are like two people who refuse to admit that they actually are friends with one another?
I get the sense that if anyone is going to be forced hetero shipped together, it's going to be Karashi and Hikaru. That's what it feels like. And like maybe Jumbo and Akane or something like that, but they have less romantic stuff going on, it feels like to me, than Karashi and Hikaru do.
Yeah, it's just for any reason why this happens. I'm like, oh, this is a cute scene. I hope they don't make them fall in love or something.
But anyway, Asagao takes them inside, where the masters are waiting. Chocho and Taizen. And immediately Akane's like, oh my god, this is the person I was, hoping to meet. So that, Chocho takes, command of proceedings, and he's like, yeah, so this is going to be the opener for us's debut. This is Akane Arakawa. And Taizen again is just staring. He's like, come on, don't just stare. She'll get shy. And Asagao is, he's fully bowing down very respectfully. And Chocho's like, hey, my apprentice picked her. He said that she's done a lot for him. He insisted on it. So I've got a proposal. Why don't you give her a Futatsume recommendation? And the guy's like, what? He's stunned by this. Yeah, you can do that, depending on her performance in the opening for the show, right? And then he notices that Akane is, struck dumb by this. Like, what? It's more motivation for you, right? And the guy's like, oh yeah, I'm just like, it's like almost too much of a good thing. Like, why? And Chocho says, what? You need a reason? When you feel good about someone, you bet big on them. It's the gambler's nature. He's so cool. Taizen pauses and speaks. And he says, being an Arakawa Futatsume means coming under the critical eye of Master Isho. Do you know what that means? It must not be a disgrace. And Akane is quiet for a moment. And she says, I think I know what that means better than anyone. And she flashes back to when her dad was expelled from the Arakawa school. And she vows, I'll undertake the first Tetu Futatsume with every ounce of strength I have. Yeah! Hell yeah!
Cool stuff. I like it. Akane, resolve, going for this next level with a lot of, potential consequence to it, but she has to succeed on her next thing, which she's going to be doing in front of her dad. I wonder when she's going to find that little detail out.
Yeah. Who knows? This was a nice chapter. I really liked the reflecting conversations and then leading to this moment where everyone's brought together. And then, the very sudden, Chocho just like, let's just lay stuff out on the table. Like, no, you don't need to like hang around Taizen for a visit. Why don't you give her a promotion if she does well? Come on! So, looking forward to more.
Yeah, good stuff. Nick, it's time to wrap up this podcast. But first, we have to go over our MVPs and our chapter of the week. I will go first. I think this is going to end up being a double. My character of the week is absolutely Haku from Green Green Greens. He was really, really funny and really, really like shitty this week in an enjoyable way. And I think in that same way, I think my chapter of the week is going to be Green Green Greens.
I'm going to repeat you on Haku. Like I said, I thought that this was a nice, return to form, a showcase for his character. Not just like, the guy who's too nervous to throw himself into stuff. This is his way of throwing himself into stuff shamelessly, which is great. For chapter of the week, though, there's some good choices, honestly. There were some really bad chapters this week, but there were some really nice chapters this week. I am going to go... I'm going to go with Akane-banashi.
Okay.
It's not a very eventful chapter, but I just really like some of the character interactions we get from it. I like the sense of things moving and the way that things are kind of taking a very soft but unexpected path in terms of how things are pacing right now. But also, like, just want to say, like, Kaiju No, really good. Cipher Academy, really good. So, some good stuff this week.
There was some good stuff there. The audience, by the way, agreed with us with Haku from Green Green Greens, his character of the week, and Undead Unluck, one chapter of the week, which I can see. This was like a fun chapter for Undead Unluck. I also like to reveal that until certain rules were added, everyone were just like fucking Barbie dolls and shit.
Sexless and genderless.
Yeah, they people were just there. Like, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah. And it does go a bit of a level to explaining Juiz's kind of fluctuating appearance in some ways. Like, okay, sure. So, all right, that's gonna do it for Weekly Manga Recap, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. We record the show here on Wednesdays at twitch.tv/RoloT. Usually start sometime between 7:30 and 8 in the evening. Eastern time. But if you want to follow along and know exactly when we're going live, you might want to join the WMAR Discord server. It'll be linked wherever this podcast is posted. You can also find our past episodes on youtube.com/weekly manga recap for the video version, podbean.com, weeklymangarecap.podbean.com specifically for all of our recorded audio versions. They're also on iTunes and Spotify and others, podcast sherry type places. The said WMR Discord, join that. You get updates. You get to, be linked to the Google Doc where we keep track of all sorts of helpful stuff for the show, including votes for end of the year polls. Those are fast approaching. Make your voice heard and vote in those and stuff, as we're getting set for our annual manga recap at the end of this year / start of next year, depending. Yeah. And we want to thank Ninja X3i for maintaining that spreadsheet. Mile Jack Stills and Winston Cheddar create the opening sequence of the show. Steve Mann does occasional thumbnail art for the title cards. Yeah.
Yes. All good stuff all around. We'll be here next week. I don't know what. So don't worry about Weekly Manga Recap leaving you high and dry for the holidays. We'll get something in there. Maybe we'll just watch Muppets Christmas Carol. I forget. Are we getting chapters next week?
I don't think we are.
Okay.
Let me check here.
Oh, Chainsaw.
No, we are.
Okay. Apparently, Chainsaw Man and Elusive Samurai also tied. Maybe that changed while I was looking at it, or maybe it just did scroll far enough down. So, big wide range of stuff. But yeah. Anyways, it sounds like we're gonna get some chapters next week, so we'll probably have a regular episode. And then we will probably do the retrospective as soon as we can, start as soon as January hits.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody. I don't have anything else to say. My arms are very cold right now, so I'm going to go.
I bet. All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.